Timbuk, I want to tell you about a big story from Russia. It is a caper worthy of Ocean 11. It is astonishing about the cat that is replaced by a cat because of regulation on Aeroflot airline. This is amazing. This is a stupid story that I'm going to tell you anyway because you're going to like it. So there was a cat, and in fact, it's a fat cat that was told. Well, let me back up for a second. A guy named Mikhail Galin decided that he was going to bring his cat with him from Moscow to Vladivostok on the Pacific coast of Russia. Very far, 8-hour flight. And he had a fat cat. And literally a cat that is fat. Not like, a rich person. I mean like a cat that had had too many cans of tuna. As we are wont to do in this time of year, by the way. No judgments. No judgments. But the cat was too big, too zaftig, full-bodied, if you will, for Russian national airline Aeroflot. They had a 20-pound weight limit on cats in the cabin, and the guy didn't want to put little Victor, who's the name of the cat, in the hold of the airplane. You put it in the hold of the airplane, it's very cold in Russia, it's like a cat icicle, and then you have to thaw the cat. It's very bad. So they didn't know what to do here. They didn't know what to do. This guy, and this has been all, by the way, confirmed by the airline. It is now the stuff of social media legend. And the airline took sanction against this guy because of it. So they weighed his cat, and his cat was found too fat. And so what do? He doesn't want to not be able to fly his 8 hours to Vladivostok, which I hear is lovely this time of year if you like, being a human icicle. And so he went to social media in Moscow and asked for help finding a cat that looked like Victor, but wasn't Victor and was under the 20-pound weight because Victor was 22 pounds. So even if we put Victor in like a little trash bag and had him running on the treadmill like people do when they're trying to make weight for wrestling, it's not going to get down below. He's not going to lose 2 pounds in a day. So they got a cat that looked like Victor, and they went to the Aeroflot station, and they weighed the cat. The cat was under the 20-pound weight limit. And then this guy switched out in the terminal, because this was the baggage claim area, you had to do this, switched out in the terminal the imposter body double cat for Victor, his very fat cat, too much caviar, and managed to carry chubby Victor in the first class area, in his carrier, and not under the plane. You'd think that this would be happily ever after. But Aeroflot was not amused. So they took, because of very strict regulation in Moscow, in Russia, you cannot do these things. So they took, I think they said 270,000 miles this guy had accrued. All of his frequent flyer miles on Aeroflot, which I'm sure is probably one of the worst airlines in the world, I'm guessing, because it's run by the Russians. But all of those miles are gone. They took away all his miles because he violated policy. So they are very upset. But to this, I just ask, producer Mark, when it is time to get your fat cat in the first class lounge, I would like to say all's fair in love, war, and fat cat transportation. Right?
I mean, like he was doing what he thought was right for his pet.
I'd go to extreme lengths for my family's dog, who, by the way, is way over the weight limit. They're building weight limits. I shouldn't even say this, but my parents know that there's some buildings they couldn't live in, not because the breed of dog is unacceptable, because there's there's a breed list for some buildings in New York, but she's over the weight limit.
A lot of New York buildings, 20-pound dog usually, something like that.
A little too much Thanksgiving turkey early, Yeah. It can happen sometimes. But a dog that's got a little extra, come on, dogs only live once. It's not that big a deal. But anyway, this is the story now. And it's making me miss Commie Bear too, so maybe we'll have to bring back that character here on the show. But this is a fun story out of Russia. What else did I have for you today, my friends? I have so much I'd like to get to. Oh, out of the United Kingdom, we have a story of some people who are doing education about gender issues. And this is a video that has been circulating online. And they have children, small children, who are being told things that, well, are, let's just say, factually challenged, but have become very in vogue right now. This is this was just making the rounds on social. I'm seeing everybody's commenting on this. This is now part of the effort to teach children that gender and sex are different things, or there's no separation. Producer Mark pulled this clip. Please play.
Hi, I'm Nadine, a sex educator.
And I'm Eva, a sex researcher.
I use the pronouns she and her because I'm a woman, and when I was your age, I used to be a girl.
Gender is how you feel on the inside about whether you're a boy or a girl, a man or a woman. If you're non-binary, feel like neither or both. People can also be fluid, feel more like female, more like male, based on a different day or time. It's really individual.
Absolutely.
Everyone born with a vulva is a girl. True or false?
Or identifies as a girl. Well, not everybody is sure, and that makes sense. But our genitals actually don't determine our gender. So some people born with vulvas can be boys.
So, I mean, that clip goes on for quite some time. They asked a room full of what looked like about maybe 7 or 8 year olds. True or false? Everybody born with a vulva is a woman. I am here to make sure that we are all on the same page, folks. It is true that everybody born with a vulva is a woman, is female, is of the female gender. This is a fact. Facts first. Doesn't matter what people feel like. Things are what they are. Situations are as reality dictates. They're trying to teach kids this nonsense now. And look, I know that this always gets caught up in, should anybody ever be rude or discriminatory or unkind to somebody who's transgender or gender fluid? Of course not. But then again, as ethical, moral people, we understand that you should never be unkind, rude to anybody for no reason, for no good reason ever. It doesn't matter who the person is. But that certainly extends to if somebody has gender transition issues or whatever. I mean, you treat everybody with the kindness and decency that you would want for yourself and for your own family. That said, policy has to be rooted in some reality. And when you're talking about policy matters, and we're talking about also education, we need to educate people with what is true, what are facts. And that is not happening here. It is the case that for a vast majority of the human population, your genitalia dictates your sex, and also your genitalia dictates your gender identity. Now, there are some instances. There are people who are intersex, formerly known as hermaphrodites. There are some, biological irregularities that can occur where it can be a little more complicated than that. But that's not the claim that's being made here. The claim that was made is actually your gender can change depending on the time of day. How can gender be a real thing if your gender can switch? How is gender a construct worthy of discussion even if your gender can change in a given day? I feel this is what these so-called expert instructors for children are saying. If I can be a woman in the morning, a man in the afternoon, and not quite sure in the evening, what does that mean about the way society is supposed to react to me? And are we really now supposed to say no more separation of the sexes into bathrooms? Because who knows really what, you might walk into the men's room and feel like a woman and want to, this is absurd. None of it makes any sense. What are they even talking about? What is the purpose of all this? But I really do believe that ultimately, I ask what the purpose is. I think I know what the purpose is. The eradication of gender roles is very much in line with statist, collectivist ideology, that you eradicate gender roles, and all human beings, that you create a radical equality where all human beings just become functionaries of the state, a kind of super state, and the family no longer matters, gender no longer matters, all these normative concepts around us that also very much influence our relationships with human beings, which are always more important than our relationship to the state. I don't care who you are. My family is more important to me than any government. True fact, true story. My loved ones are the most dear thing in the world to me. And so when you break down those bonds and you eliminate them by saying, well, I mean, there's no difference between men and women. There's no particular, marriage can be between a man and any number of women, or any, we're heading toward that, by the way, where we are going to start to have more open discussions. That's why they're doing these stories about polyamory and polyandry and these different things. We are going to head into that direction. So the institution of marriage is going to be changed to the point where it's effectively just a contract like any other contract, nothing special to it or about it. We are also heading into a phase where men and women are not going to be treated as distinct for the purposes of sports, for the purposes of bathroom segregation. I mean, we're just all these things. Why is there such an investment in the left? One is they're drunk with social power because the left has very successfully harnessed victimization as a tool to get compliance from their political opponents. Right, so they claim victim status, and victimization is very effective, particularly against people who are moral and considerate and decent. Meaning, I don't want anyone to feel bad. I don't want anyone to be discriminated against or attacked. And so if somebody comes to me and says that they are oppressed, well, my initial instinct is, well, we want to make sure you're not oppressed. That's not right. Well, then that is abuse. They pull even more on that thread until eventually it's not, I'm oppressed, will you help me? It's, I'm oppressed, do what I say. And that's the transition that we've seen with the left right now. It's, I'm oppressed, therefore I get to dictate to you, the oppressor, what will happen now going forward. It's a way of shifting the balance, the intersectional view of the balance of power in society. So, and this is how you have people who otherwise seem sane and normal saying, yeah, men should be able to, biological males, we have to say now, right? Men should be able to compete in women's sports. I wasn't some super athlete, but I could tell you, I mean, having played sports, we sometimes would do mixed athletic teams, male and female, when I was in college, including the different female varsity athletes, and we would have scrimmages and things, and, everybody knows that men are generally bigger, stronger, faster. Right? This is it's a function of biology. Not every man against every woman, but we also have to understand that at some level society is built with policies in place for what is true in the vast majority of cases. What is true in the aggregate. At some point you're just going to we have to understand that these rules are going to be somewhat imperfect, but it doesn't mean we have to get rid of all of these rules. And this is where, for example, the issue of intersex comes up, where somebody does have a biological lack of distinction between male. But even intersex people, by the way, I mean, I've read about this a bit. I'm not a super expert on this. But none of the people making any of these policies are either, I would just note. It's like the people that yell at you about climate change. And you're like, explain the process of photosynthesis, super scientist. Like, just walk me through that one. What temperature, excuse me, climatologist wannabes out there, what temperature does water boil at? Can we start with that before you start lecturing us all on the science? That's what I want to tell the climate change alarmists all the time. Read a book. And not an Al Gore book, like a book written by somebody who knows something. That would be a good place to start. But this propagandizing to our children is only going to get worse, and it's going to become official policy from the Department of Education on down, and you're going to be fighting about this in your school boards for a long time. Why children who in many cases know very little about sexuality and the human body in terms of being instructed on this, why they have to be literally lectured to in a classroom about intersex and all the different genders and gender identity. They're just propagandizing to young kids. Just give it time. They'll be the left will create somebody who is like a Greta Thunberg in the elevation of a very young person to be a global icon for a political issue. They will have that soon for, they're looking for it, I believe, right now. Somebody who's, 14, 15 years old, who is going to be the spokesperson child for transgender issues, that if you criticize what is being said or if this person is you're child bashing, anti-trans bigot, they will do this. Just give it some time. They're preparing for that next, I think. And here it is, the statement from Dean Charles Whitaker of Northwestern University on what has transpired here, where Northwestern, the college paper that they have there, the Daily, had to apologize for the crime of committing journalism. I'm serious. That is why they had to apologize, being a bunch of journos who actually did their job by showing a protest at a Jeff Sessions speaking event. Here we have the statement from Dean Charles Whitaker. Journalists have a heady responsibility performing the role as authors of the first draft of history, the term that the late Washington Post president and publisher Philip Graham is credited with coming to describe our work. Journalists often put themselves at great risks, not only to expose malfeasance and injustice, but also to hold a mirror up to society. Let me be perfectly clear. The coverage by the Daily Northwestern of the protest stemming from the recent appearance on campus by former Attorney General Jeff Sessions was in no way beyond the bounds of fair, responsible journalism. The Daily Northwestern is an independent student-run publication. As the dean of Medill, where many of these young student journalists are trained, I am deeply troubled by the vicious bullying and badgering that the students responsible for the coverage have endured for the sin of doing journalism. One interesting point to throw into the mix here, because the editor-in-chief and all the people who work for the paper were given a lot of grief. I mean, rightfully so, about their message. It turns out that one of the reasons that they wrote that groveling, "We're so sorry we did the journalism thing" letter is because they were being threatened by maniacs. That's right, my friends. One of the reasons that they had to say, sorry, we're journalists who won't do that whole journalism thing again, is that their fellow students were coming after them and in some cases threatening violence against them and just being completely insane. So I do think that's additional context that's good to know here.
It's time for roll call.
Facebook.com/Buck Sexton for all your roll call needs, or TeamBuck at iHeartMedia.com. Great to get a chance to talk to all you folks on the roll call. You know I love how the roll call rolls. Let's start with my man, Derek. Hey, Buck. I just want to say that I'm an African-American who voted for President Trump in 2016 and will again in 2020. I'm doing this in good faith that I won't let my great-grandfather down, rest his soul. He was a civil rights era minister. When Hillary Clinton, not that I've ever voted for her, said fall in line, that was the last straw for me to ever consider myself a Democrat. I walked away and have not been happier as a deplorable Shields High. All right, man. Well, Derek, I'm glad you're going to vote for Trump again. It's good to hear from somebody from your background that feels so strongly that way. So thank you so much for writing in. I do appreciate it. Hold on a second. Let me see. Michelle writes, Dear Buck, I uploaded your take on the Atlantic article. I thought it was important and should be widely distributed. Shields High, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. Yeah, that Atlantic article is really worth reading. I did post it on Facebook. I know sometimes I say that, and then producer Mark has to remind me a day later. You promised the audience you're going to do something, and then you didn't do it. I'm like, damn it, Buck. Get it together, Buck. But we did do that, actually, so that is important. And I think it's really worth listening to for all the folks out there. Deborah writes, "Hey, Buck, I enjoy listening to your show in the evening on WCBM in Baltimore. I just wanted to say that I'm sort of surprised you talk about Netflix so much. I gave mine up because the company hired the Obamas to provide programming content. They also hired Susan Rice for the board of directors. So Netflix and I got a divorce. Shields high. Keep up the good work." Deborah, thank you so much for listening. Great to have folks from WCBM Baltimore to be joining in the mix here. Look, Netflix has some good programming. Netflix is a platform in a lot of cases for already done programming. So, for example, I watch the show Friends sometimes. I know, make fun of me. I deserve it. But that's just a license that Netflix has to have that show on their platform. They don't create it. Some of the Netflix-specific shows have been good. I will not take credit away for that. The Narcos show is very good. There's other stuff that's been very good. But yes, there's a clear left-wing Netflix tilt. No question about it. You saw this with the Bill Nye the Science Guy show, which was unwatchable. And I don't mean like I disagree with the policy. I mean, that's a given. I mean, it was terrible. It just wasn't good. You know, Jon Stewart was a left-wing propagandist at The Daily Show. No, I mean, that's obvious. But he was good at it. He was an effective left because he was kind of funny and he was kind of entertaining, sometimes very funny, even though he was always pushing an alternate reality of Democrats are always so wise and smart and great for the most part, and Republicans are evil, racist idiots. So yeah, I mean, Netflix is biased, no question, but it's not easy to just get around it entirely. And a lot of the cable channels are very left wing. HBO is very left wing. HBO is very, very left wing. Pablo, hey Buck, I was watching the impeachment hearings. I realized all they have so far is two guys that had an opinion of what happened between other people in the administration. I really believe they feel left out. I stopped watching before the Republicans got to question, but I really think Geraldo found more in Al Capone's safe. Shields high. Yeah, man, there just wasn't that much. I mean, and people are going to try to make a big deal of it because the leftists who hate Trump are going to say, "Oh, this is proving that everything we've said about Trump is true," and blah blah blah. Nope, it's not proving that. They're going to say that, and no matter what, it doesn't matter. You could have every witness the Democrats call get up there on the stand and be like, "Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?" Arr! And just do that the whole time. They say, "Oh my gosh, it's brilliant! It's brilliant what the Democrats have been saying about, or what these witnesses rather, they're Democrats, but what they've been saying about Trump." Remember, my friends, the State Department has pretty similar politics to your average university faculty lounge. Left wing. Very left wing place. Let's see here. John. Buck, I voted for Trump in 2016 for many reasons. Not one of them included being influenced by Russia. I've loved the job he's done so far. There have been a few shortcomings, but overall, he's done a better job than most presidents have done in decades. After hearing Schiff this morning blabbering with his incoherent thoughts on impeachment, I became very enthused, more than I was in 2016, to vote for the president in 2020. I wish the election were today. The Dems have sunk their own ship with this unjust impeachment battle. Can't wait to see how many House seats we pick up next year. Love the show. Shields high. Well, John, love hearing from you, my man. Thank you so much. And, I hope you're right about how this is going to backfire on the Democrats. I can't say that I'm entirely confident that that's the case. I think so, but I don't like to make promises to this audience that I can't keep. I don't want to write checks my body can't cash. What movie producer, Mark?
No idea.
Are you kidding me, dude?
What? I'm really bad at movie quotes.
I mean, you've seen Top Gun, though, right? You've not
No
seen...
comment.
You have not seen Top Gun?
No.
Are you a Soviet spy? How did you sneak
Obviously, yeah.
My God, I haven't seen
Yeah, they sent a spy to infiltrate the Buck Sexton show.
Well, it would make sense, wouldn't it? Because we're single-handedly defending the front lines of freedom here.
Obviously.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Wow, no Top Gun. Have you seen Ghostbusters?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I got a little worried there for a second. It's like,
I mean, you've
we
never.
we might have to go right now. Like, go do a viewing right now
Sure.
if you have not seen
I
something.
mean, you've never seen the Mighty Ducks.
But would I like the Mighty Ducks? Come on, it's Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, so what?
How good could it really be?
That's when he was great.
That was at his best?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I guess, maybe. But the Top Gun remake does not, I don't know. I think it's coming out next year. I'm not really sure when it's coming out, but Top Gun is a movie that should not have been remade. Richard, happy Hoosier hellos. Disney Plus is great. The Mandalorian show is so much fun. As an animator, the animated film with the best 2D animation is The Song of the South. I look past the insensitive parts because the animation is incredible. I've never even heard of this thing. Still check out The Mandalorian and read Harry Potter. Shields high. All right. Never heard of that before, but fair enough. Let's see here. Have been watching Kelly and you on the first. It's great to see you back on the tube. One more thing. I've been listening and watching you since the Real News on GBTV days. Thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate that. That was a great show. I miss Real News, man. We should. There was the discussion on that show among conservatives was it was just very high level, and we had great guests, and a lot of them have gone on to be big deals in conservative media, but that was a lot of fun. Dana, right? She sent me a link. Okay, so I'm not going to get to that right now. Jason, here we go. Hey, Buck, I'm 36 years old, and for as long as I can remember, the left have been trying to divide this country by race, ethnicity, religion, gender, ideology, and so on. And now they're shocked the country is divided. The left talks about a possible coming civil war, and they blame the right. My biggest fear of their actions has been the very real possibility of balkanization of the country. And when you divide the people up that much, then yes, political violence is far more likely to happen. They've slapped at the non-left for so many years, and now the people are pushing back. But they lament the lack of civility. I don't know how the nation starts to come back together. I just know it won't happen under Democrats who are destroying our common history, symbols, and bonds, the ones that the citizens of this nation were united on. All right, here we go. Matthew, hey, Buck, just had to reach out and tell you for the last 10 years as a traveling salesman, I found myself consuming day in and day out hours of live talk radio. I started a new job in construction. Unfortunately, cannot listen to the same amount of time I used to. The Freedom Hut, though, is how I start each one of my days now when I rise and shine at 4 a.m. due to my household chores. I'm glad to have found you, to be honest. I've only been a listener for about a year. However, your straightforward, logical way of describing the day's events cuts through a lot of the hyperbole that other talk shows have. Keep up the good work. I try to spread the Buck Squad as much as I can. Shields high, Matthew. Matthew, thank you so much. Shields high to you, too. I really do appreciate that. It's very kind of you. I am honored to keep you company during your chores. That's an important thing to make sure that it's as fun as it can be. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's get to some of the emails, shall we? All right, now we're back, and now we're getting into the email inbox. So we have Andres, who writes, thanks for keeping us safe and warm. In the past, your pronunciation of my name has been spot on. What you've been reading is the phonetic spelling of my name. The actual spelling is Andres, a Latvian name. All right, cool. Being genetically German and Mexican, having a Latvian name, resulting in many asking, where are you from? My favorite response, my mother. Shields high, Andres. All right, man. Thanks. Yeah, good stuff. Terry writes, testing the email. Terry, test successful. Put more in the next email. Don writes, yeah, it's Don from Lower Alabama. Thanks, Buck and Mark. Well, Don, thank you for writing in, even if just to say thank you. We appreciate it. John writes, Buck, I love the show. John, the show loves you. Can't wait till the swamp is drained. That makes two of us. David writes, from Baltimore, Maryland, where the president of the whole USA is hosting the only loyal opposition left. Keep the faith, keep fighting. All right, Dave. I don't really know what's I don't really know what that was all about, what that's going on there, but fair enough. Phil! Hey, Mark and Buck, you both are mighty good, right up there with the best of all in my listening time. I do want to mention that last week there was a message about General Mattis and his books. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, Semper Fi. Phil, thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. And then, I'm sorry, I think I'm stepping into some of the older emails here by accident. Congratulations on getting a grown-up email. Yep, that's a really old one. All right, so somehow I've, uploaded the wrong email. I got to do a whole, Producer Mark, fix it. Producer Mark. I got to do
Do I really need to teach you how to get to the unread emails?
No, because that would mean that I'm an incompetent host.
Just scroll to the top of your email inbox.
No, there's some problem. I have to reset the computer thingy, whatever. All right, back to the Facebook emails. Producer Mark will fix this later. Whenever anything goes wrong, just go, Producer Mark, help. All right, here we go. Robert. Hey, Buck, if mass shooting victims can sue a gun maker for legally selling a gun to a woman, so her who was murdered when her mental health impaired son could steal it, can I sue GM when a drunk priest runs a red light in his car and mangles my mother in a crosswalk? Can I sue Pepsi and Breyer's ice cream for obesity when I never measured out a normal recommended serving? Backdoor gun denial is tyranny. Robert, look, man, it's wrong that they are going to sue gun manufacturers for what people illegally do with guns. It's wrong. Remember that there's something different about the pharmaceutical companies and the opioid epidemic. In the opioid epidemic, they were putting out information that was false to people. They were falsely telling them that these are not addictive. OxyContin's not addictive. That is a huge lie, a very dangerous one. Gun manufacturers aren't saying a gun can't kill anyone. Don't worry about it, or criminals don't use guns or whatever. So it's completely wrong. But the anti-gun hysteria, as you know, is a very strong force on the left, and unfortunately that's not going to change anytime soon. Brian writes, hey, Buck and Mark, 100% agree on Lady and the Tramp and Robin Hood. See, Brian's a very smart fellow. Being some of the best animated movies of their time. So sad on the cancel culture. Would love to see the scared Northwestern students who are triggered by Jeff Sessions have to sit through the classic Police Academy movies, my favorite ones growing up, or Airplane. They may have to be committed afterwards. You still have to watch Disney's Coco. It is the best since Beauty and the Beast. All the best, guys. Producer Mark, do you know this Disney's Coco? Is that a movie?
Yes, I've heard of it. I have not seen it, though. I think it's the latest in, the Disney princesses, I want to say. Like a newer one.
And there's what was there was Mulan, which was in China.
Yes.
Right? And then
Moana was fairly recent. That was with The Rock.
And what was the one that was in Hawaii?
That was Moana. I'm pretty
Moana,
sure.
Moana. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. I haven't seen any.
I've had to see that.
You know what I haven't seen that I might have to just so I can understand the cultural references? Frozen.
I haven't seen that either. But Frozen 2's coming up, and I know I'm going to be forced to go watch that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go see regular Frozen, so I get it.
Little mini Marks running around soon to be married, buddy. You're going
to watch all of these again.
You're going to be going to all the little, kid movies.
I'm going to be going to Disney World, but not for fun.
You probably don't even know what Baby Shark is, do you?
Oh, I know, and I hate it. Now that you just said those two words, it's going to be stuck in my head.
That's right.
All day. Thank you.
Get inside, Producer Marks.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. That's right. But yeah, you're going to have to actually sit there while your kids are singing the Baby Sharks. That's all right. And I'll be Uncle Buck, which, thank you, John Candy, for ruining that for me forever. Yeah. There's no coming back from the Uncle
Buck. It's going to have to be
Buck.
Uncle James.
I think it's going to have to be Uncle James.
Yeah.
James is my first name. For those of you listening who didn't know that, Buck is part of my middle name. So there is that. Let's see what we have. We got a little more coming our way. Speaking of James, he writes, pretty sad the left tells us to get an education but get all upset over the former AG, Jeff Sessions, and photos. Education is not what it seems to be nowadays. Seems to me they teach you how to be offended about everything and be weak-minded. I'm glad I did not go to college. I don't want to be offended over everything and not weak-minded. You are my education, and a few other conservative commentators. Shields high from WGY Albany, our wonderful affiliate up in Albany. Well, James, thank you so much, man. I'm very honored to be part of your education, your day-to-day education process, and it is an honor. And, team, that's going to be it for the show today. Hope you're enjoying it. If you're watching it on Pluto, Channel 248 on the Pluto TV app. The first is the channel, Buck Sexton and Jesse Kelly, and assorted other amazing people coming in just a matter of months. So please start watching us on Pluto TV. Also, the podcast, iHeartRadio app, or on iTunes. Tomorrow we talk more. Shields high.